There's so many things that hurt our body and it hurts our family. And one of those is Parkinson's. So our next guest is going to share his journey with as he helped his mom through this terrible disease.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders, make sure you stay to the end so you can find out how you can get one of George's books. All right, let's go. All right. Hey, Giant Builders. Thank you so much for coming and seeing us today. I hope that you're having a great day, and I hope that you will click the links below and follow us on social media. So today's guest is Dr. George Ackerman. Hi, Doctor. How are you?
Good. Thank you. I really appreciate your time and your audience. It means the world to me and my family. I'm really excited to talk today.
Well, why don't you tell our listeners who you are and what you do?
Sure. I started my career always really wanting to advocate for victims of crime. So my world or story, I guess, begins in advocacy, but for a different world, and that's in criminal justice. I worked in the state attorney's office in my internship, also the other side, defense. So I've been in the criminal justice system in the court world, a lawyer in DC and Florida, but I realized it's just not enough time to help victims like I wanted to. So I kind of went in a way back into the field, which is mostly what people do the other way, reverse. They do police and then, but so I ended up going into Miami police training at the academy already as a lawyer and a trainee, which they couldn't stand. In the academy, the police, they're not the fondest of lawyers or trainees. So it actually helped me build, character and never give up. And I found it in law enforcement again, you just have to go to the next call. You don't have the time like I wanted to. So I said, what else can I do to help make an impact in society? And thankfully, I did my research and my dissertation on aiding African American mothers who lost their loved ones due to murder in West Palm Beach, Florida. And that was where a lot of my research is, because a lot of time we have a victim, which is very sad, but the family members become secondary victims through grief and things, as you're aware, and it's very hard to reintegrate back into society. So my whole life really has been devoted to advocacy. Unfortunately, in a way, I was thrown in like the wolves to the world of caregiving when my mother really urgently needed help. She had Parkinson's disease for 15 years, but only the last 4, it kind of took over all of our lives. Parkinson doesn't just affect the person diagnosed, it also affects the family and the caregivers and the community. So on 1/1/2020, my mother lost her battle and passed at a young age of 69. And that kind of rejuvenated me into a world of advocacy. And since then, I've been fighting in her memory and all those we've lost due to Parkinson, but also battling the people battling today and their caregivers too. And that's really what brings me today here.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. My family has an uncle who passed away with Parkinson's, so it's a really vicious disease. So
Sorry to hear. Yeah,
yeah.
we sending our love to you and your family. And actually, we just started as we talk together. Sharon.com was created in memory of my mother, but a few years, 2 years ago, it's only been 4. I decided it's not just about me and my mother anymore; it's everyone. And as we talk to, I offer interviews. Like maybe if you're interested, I'll send it to you. But I have a new section we just added. It's called In Memory, and it's actually really dedicated for people like you and I and our families who lost a loved one due to Parkinson, and we never want them to ever be forgotten. So maybe we could talk after.
Okay. All right. Why don't you share with us what your experience or what you know of Parkinson?
Unfortunately, it's the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease, and not just in the US, but in the world. There's approximately 1 million people in the US with Parkinson's, and it's growing. Now it's not just the person diagnosed, it's their neighbors, it's the mailman, it's a driver or someone. It's really frightening. And then there's 10 million people around the world. So I had the honor to speak to over and interview 600 people from England, France, Spain, Italy, Iceland, Nova Scotia. Parkinson doesn't discriminate; it can reach anyone, anywhere, and that's a lot of the where I'm heading towards. I had struggles as a caregiver with my mother just because many times, we're not really, you don't take a class for Parkinson's disease or any disease, kind of just in a way thrown into it. So I don't feel I would be the man I am today if it wasn't for my mother's sacrifices throughout her life. She was a school teacher, she had a master's, but she literally gave it all up to raise me and my brother. So I never will forget that. And that's why I knew that one day she had it for 15 years, Parkinson, but she didn't really want to burden the family, I guess, which I wish she did, but she didn't really tell us much about it. So for several years, I knew the word Parkinson, but I didn't have any clue what it was. The last 4 years is when I had to really get involved because she went for a special trial for Parkinson's because we tried everything. Nothing worked, but on that night she came home. Something happened. I don't know if they changed the medication too drastically, but I found her at 4 a.m. moving her furniture out of her home in a kind of terror. And I got there and she said she was moving her furniture out in fear that Nazis were inside and they were going to harm her. And I rushed her to the emergency room and we found out we saved her life, but that was really when the disease took over so badly that we're not sure if she also had dementia, but hallucinations and delusions were on top of the Parkinson's, and that was really frightening. Parkinson's disease brings a variety of things, and it's so different for everyone. So what happened to our journey doesn't mean everyone will have the same episodes and things, but she had stiffness in her left arm towards the fourth year. So she still was able to live alone and be independent. But as time progressed, it got worse and worse. She had internal tremors, unlike Mr. Michael J. Fox, a famous actor who has external tremors, which are more noticeable. She also had dystonia, which is the curling of the toes. But really, Parkinson's is debilitating after it's 5 stages. A lot of people don't even know that. When you reach the third or fourth, it starts to get where you can't live alone or independently, and it's a movement disorder. So imagine I'm sitting here and trying to reach the screen, and my mind is saying do it, but my physical body can't. So that's really it's freezing gait, things like that. But that's why this is such a tough disorder and one that I hope we together can really reach people out there. So please share this and support the show because without all of you on board, we're going to be further from a cure.
So what are some of the first symptoms to be aware of?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I just put out my book. It's called The Sun's Journey. And the first chapter is called First Symptoms because I'm asked that a lot. For me, again, it differs, but because my mother knew about it, we think maybe she was diagnosed late. Maybe some people misdiagnosed, or she really was a hero to me because she didn't want to burden the family with her issues, which I wish she did. But the main thing was that stiffness in the left arm. So towards the last few years, we all would have dinner together as a family, but she wasn't able to cut her food. But it
Mm.
wasn't so debilitating yet that, again, she still lived alone. She drove, she shopped for herself, she had her friends, she still had her life. And it was, it didn't catch up till the last 4 years that's when things started to see symptoms, little less speech, so slurring of the speech. It almost mirrors drinking or driving and things like drugs, but she didn't drink and she didn't do drugs. So these are types of symptoms that people should kind of be aware. But you're supposed to see a medical doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. There's movement neurologist specialists, but a lot of time there actually is no test in society today for Parkinson's. They just kind of do tests for other diseases, then rule out if it's Parkinson's or rule it in. And that's been a big problem in the medical science. So we are making advances. They just released last year, thanks to the work of Michael J. Fox Foundation. It's called a biomarker, where there's a needle you can have, which most people still won't do, in your spine, which is frightening. And that might be able to determine if you have Parkinson's, but they're trying to take that evasive technique, put into little regular blood tests like we have throughout the country to determine. And that would be a huge, huge successful breakthrough because if you are aware of Parkinson's, there's no cure, but there are methods to take to slow the progression because it's a neurodegenerative disorder. Things like exercise 45 minutes a day, diet, and also if we get to it, we could talk about, why or how someone gets the disease.
Okay. Well, let's go back. I have another question real quick. So is there an age range?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have to get rid of the misconceptions in society if people even aware. that it's an elderly man's disease because it's not. Today, women, a big topic. I actually interviewed someone lately, females with Parkinson's. We want to bring more attention to that. It can occur at any age. Most famous again, Mr. Fox. I only bring him up because I actually had the honor to meet with him a few times, and he's my hero because as a famous actor, he could have kind of lived quietly and in a way private, which is no problem with that. But he chose to fight back and raised over $2 billion now for research. But he's not doing well. I saw him even a few days ago on TV, and it's not good. So it's we need this is urgent. This talk. But he had something called young onset Parkinson's. He had it in the 30s. So, and I even heard, and I can't qualify this as I didn't see it. There was a story a baby was born with it in another country. So unfortunately, it could affect anyone. We're told, which I believe is false, because again, I'm not a medical doctor, but you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. But my mother had no other medical issues her whole life except for this. So, it could have been more of a complication of the medicines and all the things we tried, but again, she didn't have anything else, so we wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for 1/1/2020 when she passed.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about so what are some things that one can either do once they find out, or maybe what you saw your mom do to kind of battle this?
Yeah, we tried everything. We tried several different doctors. We also tried different medications. There's only one out there. Again, I won't discuss the medical part, but yeah, it's like levodopa and carbidopa. All these things kind of control the tremors, but don't control the disease. So yes, it's a debilitating disease. I have a person, and I have to thank you again because it was tough with my mother going through it and losing her. She was my best friend. But today, as an advocate, had an honor, and it's really a lot of light from the tunnel of darkness that inspires me. People, incredible inspirations like you, your audience, and so many with Parkinson's I've now really consider family. But one gentleman specifically, I became friends with named Steven. He actually has Parkinson's. He's not even old. He's in his like 40s, I believe. He had to leave. His whole passion in life was truck driving. He had to leave the career, because of Parkinson's. So again, it depends. It's different, but so those are some of the areas. Every person different, but I always say we're a family in this fight to end Parkinson's.
So is there like a particular place or hospital or doctor who's really heading off this research?
Yeah, there are experts in the world and in actually not just in the U.S., but I've had the honor. We started a podcast. It's really more for the Parkinson's community, but for anyone out there. But I do interview experts, medical doctors, and one is Dr. Ray Dorsey and also Dr. Michael Oken. And they actually wrote the book Ending Parkinson's Disease, which is out. And if you go to togetherforsharon.com, click media and then books, I actually list books of all authors of people with Parkinson's or doctors, and I just do it for free. Also, importantly, I'm not a foundation. I'm just this one son who lost his best friend mother due to the disease. So we don't accept money. If you send me a penny, I'll send it back to you, even though it'll cost me a stamp. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to end this disease. I don't want anyone to ever go through what my mother and our family has. But yes, I've been lucky enough to interview some experts. Also, the 600 interviews I've done are on the website completely free. I've had people write me. I thought we'd have like 3 or 4 people see the site. Over 4 years, we've had over 35,000 people visit, which is really heartfelt. Some of the experts, though, I was shocked when I interviewed one just a month ago, said that again, we don't have a cure, but he thinks that this disease can be kind of deterred or not stopped, but preventable. And what he's meant is that I also agree that it's caused by the environment. My mother had a beautiful home in Florida, but she had mold over the years, termites, and who knows what was sprayed. So we do think, and I agree, the community that pesticides is the reason. So when we go to get our even vegetables and fruits from the supermarket, you have to be very careful. Also, I was shocked to find out dry cleaning, which I happened to have a jacket on when I was interviewing the doctor, and I wanted to figure out without him seeing how to rip it off, throw it in the lake. But he said even the chemicals used in dry cleaning can cause Parkinson's. So when you get your dry cleaning, let it air out. Take the wrapper off the plastic. put it outside for a few minutes before you put it in your home. And it's just shocking how many chemicals, we're affected by, and even our government needs to get more involved. We have something called paraquat in the US, which is poison. China banned it, but the US hasn't. So there's a lot viewers can do. Also, the most important thing that can change the world. There is no legislation in US history. I'm not sure what state you're in, but there's nothing right now for Parkinson's, which is shocking and sickening, to be honest. Very honest with this stuff. So thankfully, last December 2023, the first ever national plan to end Parkinson's disease was passed unanimously by the U.S. House of Representatives. And it was so big of a vote. Today in our political climate, no one agrees on anything, but there's only six geniuses who I love in a way. Part of me wants to write to them, but they didn't vote for it. I don't understand why or what they're thinking, but everybody on every side believes that end this disease is important. And then now it's heading to the Senate, hopefully this year or next. So please plead with all you and your listeners. You can reach out to your senators and please have them urgently support the bill. And it's going to help change the world for people with Parkinson's and the caregivers. It'll be the first federally funded bill in history that you can actually be a part of history. I luckily have reached out to my senators and actually interviewed one, U.S. Senator Rick Scott. It's on the website, and they both are supporting the bill. So that's really important, but we need everybody on board to end this disease.
Yeah, it's so sad how long it takes to make this impact. It's like, just do it.
Even if it passes, it doesn't mean, it's over. We still have to make sure it's, positively run, implemented. There's still so much work to be done. No, I really appreciate your time and everything. It's really been enjoyable. The main thing really is the website is completely free. It's sad in 2024 that you have to keep saying that. It's almost like if you
Yeah,
see
people
the show,
don't listen. Yeah.
the Shark Tank, it's like, but wait, there's more of it. No, there's no more. It's literally, I'm just out there fighting. There's days where I have tough things. I'm going for my own major surgery next
Oh,
Tuesday.
yeah.
Third spine surgery. If it doesn't work,
Oh,
gonna have to just live in pain. But I lay down one day and realized how painful I have it, and then I kind of videotaped it, jumped up and said, you know what, forget my pain. We got to end this disease because it's more
yeah.
important. So I'm on every social media. I don't know why, and I just I add everyone back. It's just me. We're not again a big organ. We're not. It's just a
Yeah.
website, and I don't want. Maybe in the future someday we'll turn into one, but I don't want that because I don't want money. Like we're not here for that. We do have a section that says donations, and these few organizations like Drive Toward a Cure, Power Over Parkinson's, and the Michael J. Fox Foundation have been really incredible and inspiring because
Mhm.
they actually created. I don't know why the light's doing that, but they've actually been. Sorry, never had this before. Maybe it's good, but they've been really incredible to create their own. They actually created websites in my mother's memory, and then we've added it on our website. So basically, if you go to the website togetherforsharon.com and then you go to donations and you donate, it's going to those organizations, but it's in my mother's memory. So we don't touch the money, we don't get it, we don't
Mhm.
want it, but it's really amazing for people to get involved. And I always say if everyone just donated a quarter, like literally
Yeah,
around
that'd be
the
a lot
world,
of money.
it's not easy. And that's not, again, my goal is not about that. It's just to get awareness out.
Okay. So you wrote A Son's Journey, and I believe you have a couple more books coming out.
Yeah, the first one is The Sun Journey, and I've written books in the police field and law, but never about Parkinson's. And it's not easy because, again, we're trying to get awareness out. But if you don't mind, I can read a little sentence or two.
Oh, please
Uh,
do.
the thing that means a lot to me about the book is it's my mother's memory. It'll be alive now forever. But I
Mm.
really cover important topics like the first signs of Parkinson's, symptoms, my caregiving, how I wouldn't get through this without my wife and children. Also, finding aids to help. The final week was tough. And also, there's a chapter which I love. All of my mother's family and friends wrote a little something to remember her. But this is really the story of myself and my journey in addition to my mother's, but she passed on 1/1/2020, unfortunately, due to Parkinson. On
Mhm.
June 11th, 2019, I kept a journal the last year of her life, which I never shared, and I shared it here. But on June 11th, I wrote, 8 a.m. My mother calls very upset and cries that I shouldn't forget her and take her out of this place, which is her home and her whole house. She believes people are harming her. I tried to calm her down, but the calls are constant, repetitive, and almost round the clock. She says the nighttime aid is mean, but likes the daytime aid. Yesterday, she loved the nighttime aid, but hated the daytime aid. So that's just a little bit of in the book, but you can see literally it'll take you in the good, the bad, and the ugly of caregiving and the journey and fight. But it's really not just for Parkinson's. It really plays an important role for any disease because we're all family. We're all, hopefully caregivers, and really just brings out a lot of important information. It also has tips, has some types of areas that can help. So it's not just a sad recollection. It's also, and it ends on a very positive note because it's about advocacy today, and being with you again means the world to me.
Yeah. Well, I can see it's a double blessing there in a sense, as far as like the blessing of the time that you shared with your mom, but also the blessing of the time she had with you. It was just, I can see that would be a very precious time. And I
Sure.
am very honored that you would take the heart to put that all in a book to share with the public.
I never dreamt of doing it when I wrote the journal. It was really more because I wanted to remember my mother. But then, as I was advocating for a year or two, I felt the need to get it out there because there's a lot of people who don't realize what Parkinson does or even what it is. I also share the different stages, and literally, you'll see, not visually, but at least written, what it's like. Someone joked and said this should be a movie, and I agree, but I'm not sure how to do that. But I mean, I could picture it on Lifetime or one of these channels because it's a touching tale, but also there's not enough awareness for Parkinson's disease. And it's we got to get it out there before someone has it or a family member, and then it's kind of not too late, but it's almost. I don't want people to feel that they're alone. That's the most important message.
Oh, great. Well, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I really appreciate the time together. Again, I feel like we're family in this. This is not, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not here for sometimes fun because if you see the picture behind me, it's the book cover. But
Mhm.
this is again the book. But that picture is one that not always easy to talk about. But it was at a moment I'll never forget with my mother and I, or me, and we were dancing at my wedding for
Aw.
mother and son dance. And
Mhm.
in that moment, the few minutes, Parkinson didn't exist and it didn't matter. Parkinson's is a very tough disease, but it can never take our memories away. And that's one that just will stay with me forever. But I always end every talk with this the little message for you and the listeners. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I will advocate for you, and together our voices are so much stronger. And I'm just getting started, and I'm not. I always say that and laugh because I've been doing it for a few years. But the reason I say that is every time I come across an incredible person like you and your audience, or somebody out there who just was diagnosed, or a caregiver who feels lost and alone, it re-energizes me to keep fighting, and that's what I'm going to do until we find a cure. And like I said, you're all part of this. It means the world that we had this time together, and I'll share this in my site and throughout the world forever. So, this is just one step. And I always say, even if we just reach one person today, we've changed the world for the better. So thank you all again for your time.
Well, thank you. So I tell you what, Giant Builders, you leave a message or a comment on the social media or the YouTube, and I'm going to give one of George's books away. So we'll have a drawing and you could win a free book. And I'm sure it will be very touching and something that you'll want to pass around to your family and friends. So, George, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and just sharing your story like that. It was wonderful.
Thank you. You too. And please keep in touch. I'm always here out there fighting for everyone out there.
All right. All right, Giant Builders, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.